fact that I had filed these criminal charges. And I also went to the US Embassy in Vienna and filed charges with the FBI. In part, it was a symbolic gesture because the reputation of the FBI is perhaps not the greatest. But
those charges that you filed, was it with the FBI or against the FBI?
Oh, no, with the FBI.
So basically asking the FBI to investigate?
Yes.
And you filed them at the American Embassy in Vienna?
Yes.
Okay. Now, some people in America have tried to follow the paper trail and said that they couldn't find any evidence that these these charges had been filed. Is it possible that they never left whatever room it was which you filed them in the American Embassy?
Not really, because I even sent copies by email to actually various FBI departments, because I'm well aware in the meantime that there are within every police structure these people who are obstructing investigations. So my aim was not just to file them physically here in the US Embassy, but also to spread the word around other FBI departments throughout the USA, and I think I sent them to about 10 or 12.
Okay.
I was also assured by an agent working here at the US Embassy that she had sent the physical charges that I'd filed in the official post or whatever to the Washington headquarters, so that was an assurance
and you
I
must
received.
Have reference numbers and records as some kind of a receipt?
No,
copy?
To be honest,
No?
the FBI has not contacted me.
Mm-hmm.
I rang them and they informed me that I would not necessarily get contact from them. And the situation is the scale of my charges is just monumental in the sense that it kind of more or less alleges that the US government, pharmaceutical companies and banking cartels are operating together to push forward this mass murder program under the guise of offering people vaccinations. And so, I would have been amazed if they'd handled it as a regular kind of complaint, you know, and given it a file number and, you know, all the rest of it. It took a while for the Austrian police to assign a case number to my case too.
Okay. The reason behind my question there was there are some people who try to follow that trail, and they've said that they cannot find any evidence that in the American system that they've tried to find these things in, that these charges have been filed. I just wondered whether there's any answer that you can give to that in terms of a reference number. This is where you look, this is what it says.
No, I can't do anything, Bill, because
like
I filed them. I have the evidence that I sent them to the FBI.
Okay.
I have the emails. And what the FBI did, unfortunately, is outside my control. If they haven't registered it, if they haven't assigned it a case number, if they haven't recorded it as it is their duty and requirement to do so, that's their problem, and I'm not responsible for their lapses.
Yeah.
And that's it. And anybody who wants the emails proving that I also email the FBI is very welcome to have them. I mean, I think they're even up on the web somewhere. So.
Okay. To some extent, what you did was almost like a symbolic act as well as actually initiating charges, which actually is it's not the kind of thing that most people usually take it upon themselves to do. So it was quite a valiant David and Goliath action there. But it was symbolic and it was encouraging to a lot of people. Do you feel that people have responded to you in that way?
Well, I think, there's been, as you pointed out, a growing recognition that this really is a threat. And there's solid evidence that this is a threat. And this is something that I try to lay out in the charges to explain the empirical evidence for my views. So people can read it through it and see why I've reached these conclusions. So can the FBI agents, so can the police and so on. On the other hand, there's no denying it, these structures are extremely corrupt. And if no investigation is initiated, no case file numbers are assigned, it becomes increasingly clear over time that we, the people, cannot rely on these so-called police and law enforcement branches to do their job and to protect us against a threat. And this is what's becoming increasingly clear, is that they're not doing their job, that the evidence is handed to them. They're not, arresting the people they should be arresting. They're not stopping the whole infrastructure for this mass vaccination program in spite of the dangers. So at this point, people are realizing that the justice system, the law enforcement system, has nothing more to do with justice and law enforcement, and that it needs to be rebuilt and reconstituted. And indeed, our entire societies need to be reconstituted on the basis of law and order, justice, the Constitution, if we're to have any hope of a future.
Just before we went on camera here, we were talking a little bit about the UFO phenomenon, which is something that you don't even pretend to know anything about, and there's no reason why you should. It's a different area. And you asked me whether I believed in that kind of information, and of course the answer is that we do, because we've extensively researched it. But there are parallels here, that whichever line of investigation one follows in these alternative areas, whether it's alternative health, cancer cures, free energy, the suppression of all kinds of information and government activities that have been taking place for longer than you and I have been here, you find that there is obstruction in the organisation of our governments and our military and our intelligence services. You'll find that the citizens, if you try to ask questions, you just don't get anywhere. You have to be very dogged. And then there are all kinds of psychological operations that are mounted against anyone who dares to stand up against Goliath in the way that you have done.
Certainly true. I mean, I was aware from my working within the mainstream media that it is systematically controlled by a central group who have economic interests with oil and renewable energy or whatever, or suppressing renewable energy. But what was new to me was the insight into the extent to which the alternative media also seems to be controlled. And when I tried to do what I could do, which was file these charges, publicize these charges, I found myself attacked and accused of having not filed the charges, of not existing, of all kinds of, lies. And the people who did it, I knew they were lying because they had the emails in their possession which showed that I'd filed, at least with the FBI, I'd done my bit. I can't be responsible for what the FBI does. So it became clear to me then that these people were actually trying to obstruct justice and obstruct the discovery and action against this program, and that they probably had been put in the alternative media long ago to direct people's attention away from the legislation which allows mass forced vaccination programs. Most people I've spoken to have never heard of it. They have no idea about the international health regulations and about the national pandemic plans that allow this. Somebody I know even wrote to the Austrian Health Ministry recently and inquired about this and was told by I think a lawyer or a senior official that there was no way Austrians can be forced to take this vaccination. But this official obviously hasn't read the national pandemic plan and doesn't know about the international health regulations, which make it absolutely crystal clear that Austrians, in the event of pandemic level 6 emergency declaration, actually have to follow the orders of the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization can force people to take vaccinations and also to go into quarantine. So the extent of the ignorance of people about this vital legislation has astonished me. In fact, I didn't know about it till I did the research. And you would have thought that the alternative media would have been telling people about this for years, and informing them about this danger. But it seems they haven't been. There's a big knowledge gap here that has to be filled.
There's a lot of